Okay. Anyway, everybody, well, November 11th, 2022 meeting of the Rotary called of Beavercreek. It is Veterans Day, which I think many in here know about service. Was Randy Groden here? Oh, well, then it was just Bob Cochoy today. Thank you, Bob Cochoy, for being our greeter, Eric Marcus, Ticketmaster, Pete, Mark, and Mike for the programs, and Jim Gunnell for the website. May I turn it over to you now, sir?
As we gather here today as members of Rotaries, many of us veterans would pray that we are ever mindful for the opportunities to render our service to our fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts to those areas and those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Mr. Joe Jenkins.
Yes, we're at 44% today. We have a couple of guests. Paul has a guest.
Yes, I have with me today Joy Kitzmiller. She is our school treasurer, district treasurer, and Joy is going to become a member here with the Rotary. So,
and then you have another guest. Hunt.
Sure.
And I'm taking some rest of
What was it? Some of the other names?
Okay, because we didn't get it last. It was a good show, dude.
Okay, sorry, all right. Sort of numbers.
Don't get carried away.
There you are.
Today is November 11th, day 315 of this year. We've only got 50 days left before we celebrate the new year. That's really hard to believe. It's also Death and Duty Day, which is observed on November 11th to mark the end of World War I. It is Singles Day. It is National Origami Day. And one of my favorites, National Sunday Day. And it's also Veterans Day, day we set aside to recognize all of our veterans. And I know you're eating, but if you would, just stand up if you're a veteran so we can recognize you. Thank you very much for your service. We really appreciate the fact that you gave of your life to make ours better. And also, if you've got time this afternoon, please stop by the Veterans Memorial on North Fairfield at 2 o'clock as the city celebrates our veterans. And I believe it's at 5 o'clock this evening. The Rotary does the same thing at Rotary or at Be Hope Church. A couple of other things we celebrated this week is National Harvey Waldinger Day. And yesterday was a pretty big day, at least for one of our members. It was a Marine Corps birthday.
It's Chris's birthday too, good. Chris Don's birthday is in June.
Happy birthday, Kristen. Few events that happened on this date in the past. In 1620, Provincetown Harbor, the Mayflower Compact was signed. And it's hard to believe they understood this back then, but in 1675, integral calculus is demonstrated for the first time. Francis Martin and a violent slave uprising in Southampton, Virginia, August. Nat Turner is hanged in Jerusalem, Virginia. United States President Warren G. Harding dedicated the Tomb of the Unknowns, also known as the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, in 1921. In 1930, Albert Einstein and Leo Szilard received a patent for the Einstein refrigerator. The refrigerator doesn't have any moving parts and only requires a heat source to operate it. A few things that we're celebrating here in the club. We have a couple of birthdays. Beth Capelli was on November 10th. Barry James was November 3rd. Jerry Pfeiffer was November 2nd. And tomorrow we have a big celebration for Mr. Ed Phillips.
What was it? You won't say. It'll be 5 years older.
You're 21, right?
Oh, yeah. Hang in on ×4. Yeah.
Remember partner birthdays, Teresa Garcia's husband JR, and Chris Hatley, he's not here today, his wife Kayla. And a couple of anniversaries in the club, Mick Lundy, it's 14 years. And Mark Weinstein is 24 years total, 10 here in our club. We're also celebrating a couple of things today. Our own state representative, Brian Langton, was reelected to the Ohio House State House for his second term. In a really hard-fought battle, Dick Gould was reelected as Green County Commissioner. And someone else is known very well to our club, Sharon Kennedy, was elected Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad of that court order on 50 hills of Ohio.
all three. Something else I wanted to mention, since it is Veterans Day, our own mayor, Bob Stone, was selected to be in the 2022 class of the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. They were up there last night for a dinner, and he's inducted, I think, on the 29th. But he joined two other members of our club, Brian Jarvis and Rick Morales, being members of that. And I say that because they were all three mayors, and I don't think there's too many other cities out there that had three mayors that are in the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. So it looks like it's going to be an interesting couple of years. Former President Donald Trump said Monday he will be making a big announcement on Monday or Tuesday. I guess Tuesday.
Huge.
Yeah. In response to that, Bacon Fest returns to the phrase this weekend. So take your cholesterol medicine and check it out. Historic run up in home pricing during the first 2 years of the pandemic gave homeowners record amounts of new home equity. Since May, however, $1.5 trillion has vanished, according to Black Knight, mortgage software analytics company. The average borrower has lost $30,000 in equity. Glad I didn't buy a house in the last couple of years. In Texas, there's a homeowner that says hooker ghosts have taken over her rental property. So they're trying to stir up business. She said they usually come after the men who come to the house, but then they can't complete the transaction. For Star Trek fans, Michelle Nichols, trailblazing actress who played Lieutenant Corcora, died at the age of 89, and she's now going to be on a symbolic journey beyond the stratosphere on an American spacecraft. And traveling with her will be Gene Roddenberry, his wife, and James Dooley, who played Scotty on the series. So, and finally, the National Park Service wants humans to stop licking this toad. The Sonoran desert toad secretes a potent toxin that can make people sick. Despite the risks, people have discovered that the toad's toxic secretions contain a powerful hallucinogenic. They will try just about anything.
You guys need a better song. Oh, it's not that one.
I need to go back to that a little bit.
Time pod. I mean, that's
In Connecticut, one is not allowed to walk backwards after sunset. In Florida, the singing in public places while wearing a bathing suit is not allowed. And so in Florida, skateboarding without a license is prohibited. In Georgia, Gainesville, Georgia, it's illegal to eat fried chicken any way but with your hands. And in Georgia, chickens are not permitted to cross the road, so they don't have to ask the question. In Hawaii, you cannot place a coin behind your ear. And you know, it's prohibited to give a box of chocolates weighing more than 50 pounds. Also in Idaho, there's no license allowed on tennis courts. In Chicago, it's illegal to give whiskey to dogs. And I think I've said this one before, but in Indiana, the value of pi is 4. Not 3.14562, you know, pi. And those are still on books. Bump and Johnny Ray, 2 good old boys from North Carolina, were sitting on the front porch drinking beer when a large truck hauling rolls and rolls of cotton went by. Bubba said, I'm going to do that when I win the lottery. Do what? Said Johnny Ray. Send my grass out to be mowed. I'm trying to keep these clean, but this one I kind of like. So a teacher asked her class, and since we're having a superintendent speak today, what do you want out of life? The little girl raised her hand. All I want out of life is 4 little animals. The teachers asked, really? And what 4 little animals would that be? The little girl answered, a mink on my back, a jaguar in the garage, and a tiger in bed. And of course, I need a jackass to pay for it. And elderly woman called 911 her cell phone to report that her car had been broken into. She is hysterical, complains. It explains her situation to the dispatcher. They've stolen the stereo, the steering wheel, the brake pedal, and even the accelerator, she cried. The dispatcher said, stay calm, the officer's on his way. A few minutes later, the officer radios in. Disregard, he says, she got into the back seat by mistake. There was once an old man who was about to die. He told his wife to put a bag of money in the attic. So when I die, I'll pick it up when I pay up. Well, when the old man died, the wife went up in the attic and found the bag of money was still there. She said, I knew I should have put it in the basement. Oh, we have a couple of blondes here. I'm sorry. These are degrees of blondness. I didn't expect blondes to be here. A blonde is bragging about her knowledge of state capitals. She probably says, go and ask me. I know them all. A friend asked, okay, what's the capital of Wisconsin? W. Second grade. What did the blonde ask the doctor? Which he told her she was pregnant. Is it mine? Oh. Third grade. Bambi, a blonde in her 4th year as a UCLA freshman, sat in her U.S. government class. The professor asked Bambi if she knew what Roe versus Wade was about. Bambi pondered the question and then finally said, that was the decision George Washington made before he crossed the Delaware. And then the 4th grade, returning home from work, Blonde was shocked to find her house ransacked and burglarized. She telephoned the police at once and reported the crime. The police dispatcher broadcast a call on the radio and the canine unit was patrolling nearby. As the canine officer approached the house with his dog on a leash, the blonde ran out on the porch, shuddered at the sight of the cop and his dog, then sat down on the steps and started to cry. She moaned, I came home to find all my possessions stolen. I called the police for help, and what do? They send a blind policeman. There was a boy talking to a little girl, and he says, the superintendent's a dummy. Say, the little girl said, you know who I am? No, I'm the superintendent's daughter. The little boy says, do you know who I am? No, thank God. There was another son that was talking to his father. He said, Dad, there's a small gathering at school tomorrow. The father said, a small get together? How small? Well, son said, only me, you, and the superintendent. As always, I'd like to leave you guys with a couple of positive or encouraging quotes. Stay close to anything that makes you glad you're alive. And what's the difference between an obstacle and an opportunity? Our attitude toward it. Every opportunity has a difficulty, and every difficulty has an opportunity. to this lines. If you can remember ever having a Harvey wall banger, that's $1. If you've ever blown a kite, that's $1. If you have ever given whiskey to a dog, that's $1. If you did not vote on Tuesday, that's $5. If you were a leader today, that's $1. And if you're not wearing your Rotary pin, that's $1. Now I'm going to turn it over to our New York marathoner.
I have a clarification.
Yes.
What if we voted ahead of time? Is it $5 still?
Well, if you didn't vote.
Just 10 for being you, Eric. Okay, let's see, start with Happy Bucks. Who's happy today?
Well, I guess I'll start off with a happy 20. Thanks everyone for your support. I'm tickled and pleased and honored to be coming back for another couple of years.
I also want to thank Brian. I was frustrated about an issue last week, a political one, and he, a couple of days before the election gave me like 20 minutes on the phone. And I don't think I deserved that as a constituent that close to the election, but I was very appreciative of it. So thank you, Brian. Who else are you going to?
Where you go?
Dave.
I have a happy buck. I started my day at the Rivers Edge Montessori School, giving a veterans program to my great-grandfather's class. It was a lot of fun. Lots of questions. How old are you? 27.
No one else? Okay. I'm happy because I finished the New York City Marathon. For those who may have seen the news, the weather was atrocious. I beat many professionals, if only because they dropped out. The leader collapsed at, I think, 20 miles. America's best marathoner dropped out. I have a friend who's a pro who was debuting in the marathon, was hoping for like 2:10, 2:12. He went 2:28. So it was a tough day. So finishing was exciting. Let's see, a couple announcements here. Oh, sorry, let's do the take the room. First one, we got two. The first one will be the usual 50-50. That's going to be 3-1-1, 3, 5, 3. Oh, well, three. Right here. Oh, there we go. All right. Oh, am I giving away on the second one? Another $25 for Fridays. TGI Fridays, that is?
Yes.
Okay. We'll wait here. That deck is getting pretty thin. Grooms. Hopefully someone wins before Christmas. Okay, for $25 of TGI Fridays, we have 3-1-1, 3, 7, 1. Oh God, Ferric Marcus. Oh. No.
But I saw you buy your, I got your mind.
And it wasn't rigged. I pulled the tickets, so blame me. A couple of flags for heroes reminders. We have made the decision we're going to cancel ceremony today. Weather doesn't seem to be cooperating. There's a chance it could break up, but we just think it's in the best interest to cancel that. I appreciate everyone who helped with the setup last week. And in terms of tear down, we are going to push that. We don't want to do it tomorrow since it's raining. The flag could still be wet. We're now going to do it Monday at 5 p.m. I'll try to put out an email reminder on this weekend, but Monday at 5 p.m. at Be Hope Church for the tear down of the flags. Also on Monday will be well, I was calling it first coffee of the month, but I would have been gone last week. So it was second Monday of the month coffee. Starbucks on Fairfield, 7 a.m. I think y'all know where that's at. So 7 a.m. come chat, have a good time. No program, just chatting with friends and Rotarians. And before I turn over to Brian Lampton on Veterans Day, I saw something today that like made me frustrated. A lot of us served and get the deals, but I think most of us don't expect the deals. And I was going to treat myself to Firehouse subs today as a guilty pleasure. So I looked it up and saw if they had any deals, and they didn't on their Facebook page. And some veteran was complaining, saying, "I'm not going to support y'all anymore." And I got like really angry about that. Like they were like like some business owes them for their service. And I think why it made me particularly angry was last week, I had a friend from the Air Force Academy who was a year behind me, also an economics major, and he was in my squadron. He passed away back in March, and I didn't know why he passed away. It wasn't really advertised. And then on Facebook last week, I realized he had friend requested me long ago, and I had missed it. And I was really upset, and I accepted it, and went back, and I found the post from his father. Bill was an enlisted guy, came to the Air Force Academy, tried 3 times to get to pilot training, but the Air Force kept rejecting him because of his eyes or something. Ended up becoming an operator, like really hardcore, behind the scenes kind of guy, did dirty stuff, but you would never know, just a really quiet guy. And ended up moving up fast, was like an aide to a lot of senior generals in Europe, left the military, founded a company, and its first year had partnerships with, the English Premier League, Under Armour. It was just brilliant. And he had stage 4 cancer from burn pits. And I just, that like really, really hit home. I think we've all known people who've been impacted. So think about my friend who passed away from a burn pit, and then I think of some veteran upset because they don't get a free sandwich on Veterans Day. And I felt like we've gone astray if that's what we're upset about. We've missed the picture. So just want to share that to remind everyone to keep the bigger picture in mind. Billy's not here anymore, and he was a good kid. So with that, need to be so happy to behind. So all yours.
Good. I'll try to lighten that up there. Mr. Happy. Well, I have the privilege and honor of introducing our speaker today. We all know our superintendent, Paul Otten. He joined us in the schools in 2016. It just seems like a few weeks ago, Paul, but that's been years. Let's see, Paul graduated from Wittenberg and achieved his master's from Xavier. And he spent most of his career in Fairfield, assistant principal, and superintendent. Paul is married to Julie, and they have 4 children. And I got an update on the kids today. Emma, his oldest, is a teacher in North Carolina. Tommy is a junior at Miami of Oxford, studying computer science. Ethan, as a lot of you will remember, part of the state championship, Beavercreek State Championship swim team, is in Alabama, swimming for them. And his youngest daughter, Chloe, is swimming at Beavercreek Junior at Beavercreek High School. Paul enjoys golf and boating and everything having to do with his kids. A couple of things that I don't know what he'll all talk about, but he's very involved in our community. The focus, as you'll see, is on the kids. And that's what's great about him. He is a rock star in the superintendent world. He also holds community chats. And a couple of us are on his business advisory committee that they have, once a quarter. So ladies and gentlemen, please, a warm Rotary welcome to our friend, Paul Ott.
All right, I gotta get this presentation up. I'm gonna try to do this. All right. Eric? I just gotta. Yeah. Only because it's you. Yeah, I appreciate it. If I had it open. Oh, I see it. Okay. You go back to that main screen. Yeah, probably. You already had it open, you said? Yeah, it was it's one of the it's in the Chrome, Google Chrome. Oh, it's there it is. Right. So if you can move that taskbar down, it's probably right in there.
Can unshare the screen and then reshare.
All right, there we go. That would be right for your recommendation. Then you can hit this not one. Oh shit. I said,
Yeah.
thank you.
Beavercreek City Schools, so.
That's right. That's that. No, exactly. That's great. First of all, I want to say thanks. I always enjoy getting up and talking about our schools and our kids. And, it is interesting when you sit and you talk about 2016, when Brian asked me that question. It does, I feel like I haven't been here that long, but this is year 7. So it's a great place. I'm very fortunate to be here. Extremely fortunate not only to live here, but to send my kids to Beavercreek schools. Today I thought about what are some topics that would be of interest to Rotary. Obviously, number one is our academic achievement. That's our bread and butter. That is what we are tasked to do, is how are we educating our kids in Beavercreek City Schools. So I'll share what our latest local report card looks like and kind of give you a flavor for what those measures are. I will tell you, we're very, very proud of the work that we've done with academic achievement. The pandemic, as you can imagine, was very difficult on all schools, but we kind of mustered through and pushed and stayed open, and we have seen the benefit of that compared to a lot of our neighbors. Also going to talk about safety and security. You may remember the Uvalde incident that happened in Texas. That occurred after we were out of school. In some regards, nothing's good about that event, but it happening while we were out of school was a plus for us, because it allowed us to really take a different look and start looking at things differently without kids in our buildings the next day. So we'll talk about safety and security. And the last thing, we live in a community that is growing. We see new neighborhoods going in the city. We see new neighborhoods going in the township. So we'll talk a little bit about that growth, and then what does our response look like for that moving forward. So first of all, our local report card. Just want to give you a snapshot of this. We'll talk about each of these 5 areas, but the state previously did a local report card, and they ran it as an A through an F. And the interesting thing about running an A through an F report card, because that's what we're most familiar with, is when you have a C is that you are meeting state expectations, the letter C. That was very difficult for school districts and communities to see that if you were meeting expectations, that you were a C. People don't like C's, they like A's, they like B's, and they're struggling a little bit with C's. So the state got very creative and said, we're going to do it on a star rating system instead of the A through F. So it's like going to a hotel. If you're a 5-star, you're exceeding, but the 3-star still means that you are meeting state expectations. So really a lot of the same information, but a 5 significantly exceeding state standards, 4 exceeding state standards, 3 meets it, 2 is needs support, and 1 is needs significant support to meet the state standards. So as you can see, looking across Beavercreek, we had 3 areas that we had 5 stars, and we had 2 areas that we had 4 stars. So we'll talk a little bit about each one of those areas. So when you look at our local report card for achievement is based off the state tests. So our kids, grades really 3 through 8, all take state mandated tests, and then certain subject areas at our high school also have to take state tests. So in our high school, it's English language arts, math, science, integrated math 1 and 2, American history, American government, it goes into great detail. So there are very specific tests that we have to take to get those scores. When you look at achievement, everything is measured. When they take that snapshot, they take how did your students achieve? How did you achieve to your similar districts? We have 20 other similar districts to us. And then how did you achieve compared to the state? So we scored 97.47 in that area, which puts us as a 5-star for achievement, which means that we clearly significantly exceeded the state standard. I do put this one in here because I wanted to show you kind of an interesting snapshot of it. Everything that you see from the orange bar up is a child passing the test.
how well they pass creates a different color. So you can see in orange is that you're proficient, green is accomplished, that dark top one is advanced, and then that thin blue is advanced plus. Your purplish at the bottom is basic, and then pink is your limited. So as you can imagine, we focus on all of our kids because you have to continue to grow, because there's a different measure that I'll show you in a minute that shows that you have to grow these kids. But obviously our focus starts really coming down to our students that are really struggling towards the bottom there as well. If you notice the bar graph in the middle, that's 2020. That's when the pandemic hit. So our data is very limited because we took tests in the fall. We did not take them in the spring. But you can see, just because of the pandemic, we're starting to show growth over that time. The progress component, the way this works is they literally, what they will end up doing is they will take a child, and each child is tracked. Every child, we look to see how are they progressing across the grade bands? How are they moving? How are we growing these kids, moving them forward? I know it's kind of hard to read over here, but clearly there's one area that our district is struggling on, and that is sixth grade math. That's the red one there. So we are not growing our kids as well in that area. Interestingly enough, we see that across the entire state. So people will say, oh, it's an assessment problem. That's a state problem. That has been like that for years across the state. So we don't think it's an assessment problem. We don't think it's a state problem. We think the content that is being delivered at that grade level, because they're on task as fourth graders and fifth graders, but in sixth grade, they're not hitting it. So we have to continue to retool and refocus what that looks like. But you can see that this is one of our areas that we had a 4-star, which means that we've exceeded the state standard. But we also see this as an area of growth for us. We want those A's or the 5 stars. Gap closing. So this is very interesting, the way this works. So the way gap closing works is they talk about the learning gaps that kids have in different subgroups. So when you look at different subgroups, and large school districts like Beavercreek have subgroups. Smaller school districts many times do not have a subgroup because they don't have enough kids to qualify for that subgroup. Sometimes you'll see some of our schools may not have a subgroup within their school, but the district will have the subgroup. So what they've also done is they've increased what they're adding into this gap closing. So they're going to look at your gifted performance. So our kids, we have a very large number of kids in our district that are identified as gifted. That is the hardest group to show because they are excelling at such a high level. And then from year to year, we have to continue to show that they are growing equivalent, that we are growing them as much as we're growing other students. So they are so high performing, it's very difficult to get but I will tell you, we have always achieved our gifted indicator. Chronic absenteeism is another piece that's looked at for our district. That is really the look at students who start in the school and end the school year with us. So when you have students who are moving in or you have students who are moving out, that hits the indicator. English learners, that's those students who are coming to us who do not speak English or do not speak it well. So they are qualified as an English language learner. So we have to show growth in those areas as well. I believe we have about 27 different languages that are not spoken in our schools, but 27 different languages that are spoken with our students. And then we look at graduation. Graduation is its own subgroup. It's one of our indicators. But they take our subgroups that are designated subgroups, and they try to focus on how well are those subgroups achieving compared to the rest. Then we look at our academic achievement for English language arts and math, and we move forward with our student subgroups. So this is very detailed. The state has changed
gap closing. So we anticipate it'll look a little different for next year as well. And then we look at 2 areas for graduation. When we all think of graduation, you think of you're a senior and you graduate. That's our graduation rate. Well, they have what's called a 4-year and a 5-year graduation rate. So for our 4-year graduation rate, we have about 97% of our kids graduate within those 4 years. That means we obviously have students who do not graduate at the end of those 4 years. So then that's where the 5-year graduation rate kicks in. So we take a small group of students that do not make it. They get to their senior year, and we might have 7 or 8 kids who do not have enough credits, or they failed classes in their senior year that did not earn them credits. So they have to either come into summertime to take it, or they'll have to return. I will tell you that we always work through them in the summertime, because we know that they want to finish, and we want to finish with them as well and get them out the door and get them graduated. So that 5-year rate is at 98%. So 97 that's the lion's share of our students, very small group that go in that 5 years. So that is very, very high. And when you look at these bars, the state is the green bar. The similar district we achieve above our similar districts, that's the black bar, and we're the blue bar. Then early literacy, this one focuses solely in our really kindergarten through 3rd grade. And what it does, it looks at how many students are being promoted onto the next grade. It also looks at the 3rd grade reading test, how many students are passing that. We are a district that we have I would put us in the 65% range, that our 3rd grade students are passing that in the fall. So they are passing it before the spring test is even taken. So we achieve very well there. I will tell you, this is an area that we had 4 stars, but I wanted to let you know you need to get an 88 for the 5 stars. We were at 86.1. So we'll continue to work on that, because we think that is something we can easily achieve. And then the last piece is we have a very large special education population within our school district. They are not a subgroup that is listed in here, but they are their own group. So the state does what's called a special education profile every year for the district, and it's taken off of the previous year. So it's generated in 2022 based on the 2021 school year. So there are 28 possible points that you can achieve as a district. We've achieved all 28 of those. So that's the highest rating we have. And the purpose behind this profile is so the state can work with school districts to help them continue to focus on those kids who need the most help. And so we're very proud that we're achieving at the highest level of this for our special education population. So that concludes our academic achievement. You can see we are very proud of that. If you look across the Dayton region, I will tell you, we see us as 3rd on how that broke down. Oakwood had, I want to say, 4 areas that were 5 stars, and 1 4. And drawing a blank on Bellbrook Sugar Creek. Same. They had 4 areas that were 5s and 1 4. So that's where we fall. So we're very proud of that. And we think a lot of that has to deal with the fact that we stayed in school during the pandemic. Safety and security. Safety and security is a very critical piece. We recognize that not only do our kids want to be safe, but we also know our staff need to feel safe. And if they feel safe, our staff and students, it's a better environment for them to learn. So a number of things that we have to do as a district, we have to look at our safety plans every year. So every year, Homeland Security requires the school district to submit updated safety plans. Those change every year. It's not the doors change or what our plan is of how we exit buildings, but what changes is what we've installed during that school year. So up to this school year, we have started installing new wraps for our windows that have to be put in. So you can walk up to a window with a bat and you're not going to get through our window. It'll shatter, but you're not going to get through the window. The windows will remain. So we've started putting that on our exterior doors and in our kind of foyer areas. So those safety plans, we will have to upload that information in for next year. And then we also have what are safety teams. Each building is required to have a safety team, and that is made up of obviously administrators, some classified staff, and some certified staff. And the purpose behind that is really to get more eyes on looking at what we are doing as a building to create a safer environment. Interestingly enough, back in the day, when I was a principal, you focused on this last piece, training and drills. And really it was drills. So you knew you had to do a fire drill every month. You had to do tornado drills certain times of the year. This right now, this topic is something that we talk about every month. We talk about safety and security of our buildings. We never used to talk about that. We just did the drills. So probably in the last 5 to 10 years, this has become something that has ramped up. And now I would say today it is a monthly conversation. Those safety teams, we have a district safety team. They meet constantly looking at what we're doing and what we're bringing in. So I'll talk a little bit about, and I've got a lot of notes on this, some of our facility safeguards that we have. And so one of the things that we do is we do vulnerability assessments. And what we do is we work directly with police department. We work with Homeland Security. We will ask individuals to come in and look at our facilities to determine where are our weak points, what needs to be strengthened, what can we do to improve upon what we are providing to our kids and to our staff. We talk about what's our perimeter look like around our building, how do our windows function, how are our exits. We've started having conversation of saying, if we're going to exit a building, how are we involving police? And when police come on site, what access are they going to have to our facilities? That communication has changed pretty dramatically between Beavercreek PD and our school district. So that has grown. We've always worked with them. Now it's a constant communication. How are they going to get access to our buildings? How do they get access to our cameras? So on and so forth. So we're constantly looking at that. When we talk about a layered approach, that's part of that conversation. The biggest thing that our business manager says this all the time, we have to start balancing convenience with safety. And the further you fall on that spectrum is where you start getting a different feel. So families are very familiar, or they're familiar with coming to a school, walking into the school, going up to the counter, requesting the child or whatever they need, or dropping something off. That is slowly changing within our school district. We're not wanting individuals to come into our buildings. And so when a family has something they have to drop off, we want to give them different access. So what we have started doing over the last year is we're putting transaction windows into all of our buildings. Some of those are operational today. Some are going to happen over the holiday break. But what we're trying to have families do is when you approach a building, you'll start seeing signs saying, please go to the window. And it looks like a transaction window. It has glass on it. You can pass information back and forth. There's the ability to talk through the window. And that is our hope of how are we functioning. If you go to Coy Middle School today, you'll see parents will walk up, they won't even enter the building. They're just walking up and they'll have that conversation with the individual working right next to the window. So that is not very welcoming. It is not what they're most familiar with, but families have come to expect it, and they recognize that we do not have individuals that are coming into the building. We have moved to badges, really badge access across the district, because if you lose a key, if someone finds a key that you've lost, that key will access all the buildings. So now we're doing badges. And the nice thing about a badge is when you badge in, the system records who's badging in, what time you badged in. And we've started transitioning over to different systems that if a teacher comes in on a weekend, which they do, they may badge in, it turns off the alarm system. And when they badge back out, it turns the alarm system back on. So it's getting to be pretty kind of high end there. surveillance. I'll give you a great example today. I got a phone call today from our high school principal who was giving me a situation that they were dealing with at our high school and said, we are going to have to remove a student. I want to make you aware of this. We're going to remove a student, but we're going to remove them with the police. The police are going to come to assist. So we are going to move the car over to this side. We're going to wait for the student after everybody's out. We don't want anybody to see this happen. It deals with a situation that they're dealing with at the home. And so I said, I'd like to, I'm not going to go to the high school, but I'd like to see how well this is handled. So I went into our student services office and asked him, can you pull up the high school cameras? So he pulled up the high school cameras. There are unbelievable amounts of cameras all over that high school. Cameras, I mean, so many, it was almost shocking. We're going through trying to find, like, is that the parking lot? No, that's not the parking lot. That's, which parking lot is this? And and you're saying east side, is that east side, west side? No, you know, it's, but what's amazing to me is we can watch how they're manipulating the cameras. And those cameras used to be something that ran in the background. Someone's using those almost all the time. They're watching kids. They're not watching to see something happen, but they're looking for situations that they're looking at. So all the surveillance that we have, anytime someone walks in front of the camera, it becomes active. It starts recording. When it's an empty hallway, it's stagnant. The other piece is visitor identification and entrances. This again is that example of security versus convenience. If you are going to come to any of our schools, we have a system now called Raptor. When you arrive and you have a business in our school, you're going to give them your driver's license, and that driver's license gets entered into a machine. It like sucks it into the machine, then it pulls it back out, and you wait. What it does is it's running a background check on that individual right there in the office. And we have had hits. It doesn't set off alarms, but the screen turns red. I'm like, you could have probably done something a little different, but the screen does turn red. And so when the screen turns red, there's actually a button that you can hit that we can call the police if we have to. But typically we've seen red screens before. Typically, we just had a principal come out and address why the individual's not going to be permitted into the building. And I will tell you, a couple of those have been that the individual's name matches verbatim another individual that's in the registry. And that parent is not the individual that's there. So, but we run everybody through that. And then it generates a badge with your picture on it, with your name and your information. Just another layer of security that we know the people who are walking in the building should be there.
So we know we're delivering dictionaries and coloring books. Steve, are you going to be able to get in? I'm just.
Brian, that's why I didn't volunteer this.
Yeah, smart move. You know, all this stuff costs money. So the state came out with some safety and security grants. We were the only district in Greene County in the first round to receive funding, and we received the maximum amount of funding, which is only $200,000. Still a great number to start upgrading a lot of our systems. We've applied in the second round and have received funding in the second round as well. I think it was $160,000 in the second round. So we continue to look at how we're funding these projects, because obviously none of this is cheap, but we know how important this is, not only for our district, but our community. And then the last thing I'll hit on here is really the continuous evaluation improvement. We are constantly having this conversation. We are constantly looking at pieces. You may remember reading about this. This is our Anchorman lock that Creek Safe provided. They provided one of those for every classroom door in every building across our district. And that tool, we are now on a monthly process of checking that tool to make sure it works, because doors shift, they move over time. And so the worst thing that can happen is you need to engage that lock and it doesn't go into the hole, or the hole has stuff in it that it won't lock down. So we're
monitoring those all the time, but we know that's a great tool for our kids and for our staff. One of the things that our Board of Education did for this school year is we employed what is now our Chief Security Officer. So you may know Chris Williams. Chris is a retired police officer. He was an SRO for us, and Chris has been a great asset. That communication has gotten so great between the police department and Greene County Sheriff's Office because of him. He is constant. His job is to not just work at the high school. His job is to move throughout the entire district, put his eyes on everything that's happening, make sure that those locks are functioning. Any situation, he'll drive to any of our buildings. He is a Beavercreek City School District employee, and he brings his dog with him as well, which is a trained dog. So we have a trained dog. Our new SRO officer will be starting, and he will be bringing a dog as well. So very excited about that. Partnerships, when you talk about safety and security, obviously we're going to deal with the fire department, the police department, the sheriff's office, Creek Safe. That organization that did the locks, they are now focused raising more money for more safety measures. And then we deal with a company called Merchants Security. Merchants is a private group that we contract out to have additional security officers within our building. So we have Merchants Security at our middle school, both middle schools, Ferguson Hall, and at our high school. The communication piece of this, we're constantly retooling. We ask parents all the time, because every child in our school, I would almost say 98% of our kids have a phone. And when something's happening in their school, they tend to call mom and dad, or they text mom and dad. Well, then mom and dad call us, and sometimes we don't even know what's going on. And they say, hey, my son just texted me saying there's a lockdown. Well, that happens fast. And so we always ask our parents, listen to the communication that we're going to send you, because you're going to get part of the picture, not the full picture. And obviously, anytime that we have something that's dealing with potential crisis, we're trying to communicate out. Give you a good example. Wednesday of this week, there was a TikTok challenge that came out about swatting. And swatting is when someone calls and makes it sound like there is an event that's happening at one of your schools. You may have seen it. It's happened here in the region, number of school districts, they evacuate. They'll pull all the kids out, put them on buses. They get them out of school because there's a bomb, or there's going to be a shooting at 12:30. So that has continued to happen. When we start realizing and hearing that there's a planned time, we will start communicating out to families. Want to make you aware, this was planned, and we did not proceed with it. It never happened to us. So I anticipate that we will get our phone call at some point, but we'll continue to keep our families in the loop. So enrollment growth, I got 5 minutes. Want to give you a snapshot. So current enrollment, this was as of August 16, 2022. I do have new numbers I can share with you today. When you look at our enrollment as of August, we were sitting at 8,005 students. Today, we sit at 8,174 students in the district. That does not mean that has grown. When you look at that date, there's just kids who are enrolling at the start of the school year. So they didn't all show up. Some of them have shown up, but we're sitting at just under 8,200 students today in our district. Some of the things that have changed for this school year. So we're talking about how have we adjusted across the district. Fairbrook Elementary School, if you drive and you look behind Fairbrook, you will see there's a brand new 6-classroom portable that has been installed back there behind the building. That has a whole grade level in it. That building has reached its capacity. Main Elementary, if you drive by the front of it, you'll see it has 6 classrooms in the front. Trayvine has 6 classrooms that were installed in the 2021. So we now have 3 elementary schools with portables. The preschool, if you go to our central office and you were there during the 1920 school year, you would have saw that there are three bays of offices. Now there's two. We've taken one of those bays and we've turned it into 2 preschool classrooms. So the intent of the district eventually is to take the central office that's located on Kemp and give that to the kids, repurpose that entire building to the kids. That will become the whole preschool center. Because as of today, we have 3 preschool classrooms over at Parkwood. So we're growing so much that we don't have the ability to have all our preschool in one building. District-wide, we've changed classrooms to try to repurpose rooms, and we've made adjustments to attendance boundaries. One of the things that has been very important to the board is as we've had to make adjustments, let's do it before kids move into those houses. So certain developments that are being built that might be sitting in Treebine, we've repurposed them to a different elementary school. So for example, Nathaniel's Grove, which is a huge development, has been redesigned over to Main Elementary. So we're not going to talk about that, but these are projections that the district received in April of 2022. Everything in the green is actual data, and everything in the blue is what is projected. So we have seen numbers vary. This shows that in the 30-31 school year, we would be just about close to 8,700 students within the district. Today we sit at 8,174. We anticipate that those projections have varied between 8,600 and 9,200. So I'm not sure, I wouldn't bet on any of those numbers, but we anticipate that the growth will continue to happen with the development we're seeing. So we talked about a master facility plan. The board going to engage in a conversation Tuesday night of next week. We're going to start having a conversation about, is our master facility plan that we did back in the 1920 school year, is it still accurate? Is it still what our community wants done? And I'm going to just give you a quick snapshot of that since I'm running out of time. That master facility plan, this is our response to growth. There's 2 approaches. There is, we can do a Band-Aid approach, and which is cheaper. The Band-Aid approach is cheaper, but you're probably going to get about 7 to 8 years out of that approach. And then you're going to have to go back and do something different. Or do you do surgery and say, all right, we're going to do something totally different, but we're going to have enough growth for 30, 40 years maybe, until we have to build another school to replace another school. So again, it brings our preschool into the central office, and that becomes our preschool center across the district. Main Elementary, which is our oldest building, it's in great shape. I would encourage all of you to go walk through it. It's incredible how great that building is. But that building has very small classrooms. It's very expensive to heat. So we would take that offline, and that would become our central office for the district. So we would not get rid of that building, but it would become a central office for us. We would build a new high school on existing land. I'll show you where that's at in a minute. And then you can see our elementary buildings would become K-6 buildings. Ankeny and Coy would become elementary schools. Beavercreek High School would become, the current Beavercreek High School would be a 7-8 building, could be a 6-7-8 building. That's to be determined later. And then Ferguson Hall, we would have available for alternative uses. So we would not be shipping kids out to different county areas. We can actually keep our kids in-house and let the county also rent space from us for those services, and then bring in additional gyms. Right now at those 3 schools, Fairbrook, Parkwood, and Valley, where you eat lunch is where you have gyms. So it becomes very problematic how we schedule classes. This is a kind of a snapshot of what that looks like, but what it does is it brings our additional seats. It brings in almost 2,000 additional seats for future growth. Again, this plan would put us in a position that we would build new buildings to replace buildings, not for growth. We would not build buildings for growth after this. This is kind of a concept design of that property. It sits on South Alpha, Bellbrook, and Indian Ripple. And You can see everything that's hashed out in the yellow hash lines. That is our property that we own. The Russ Research Group is kind of in the middle of the screen above. And so you would have, we would have all athletic facilities would be on site here, which would truly improve our athletics, because not only would we have a set of athletic fields here for our high school kids, but the current high school we would maintain those fields as well. So it would be a great scenario for our middle school kids. Again, as we talk about what are our future steps, the board's going to start engaging in this conversation now, because we're recognizing that we're putting portables in front of schools. Our schools are the front porch of our community, and we recognize those portables are nice, but they're not beautiful, and they're not something that's a super safe environment for kids in terms of how they're built. And we do a lot to make sure that they're safe and they're secure, but at the same time too, we also know they're portables. So with that, I will see you again. I'm sorry, I'm about 2 minutes over, but I'll see what questions people have. Steve.
Yeah, so I love hearing all the stuff, all the safety stuff you guys have done in the last year or so. Pretty amazing. What's like future stuff? What are you really wanting, like the next thing to help? I mean, it seems like you have everything done.
Yeah, so there's I'll tell you what we would love to have. We would love to have more Chris Williams in our buildings. Because Chris is actually permitted to carry a weapon. So it would be nice to have someone who is a trained officer really in our buildings. If the chief was here, he'll tell you how difficult it is. Pete would probably tell you how difficult it is to hire police. Because Pete, am I correct? It's very difficult to hire police. So it's not like we have a whole slew of people out there that can do it. But when we start looking at retired individuals, that would be a great addition to have for our buildings, is just that additional person. So there's so many other options. The software that we have on our cameras, we can say he was wearing a red hoodie, and you can click red, you can put red hoodie, and it'll find everybody in the building who crossed the camera with a red hoodie on. And so, but we don't pay for that currently. Everything costs money to get to that level. And it's got facial recognition. If Larry walks in, I say, I don't want Larry walking in anymore. So if he shows up in any of our buildings, it won't recognize Larry, but it'll know Larry's facial features. Then anybody who walks in with those same facial features, it'll pop up on the screen that alert, this may be the individual. So you're right, Larry, we'll let you in next. But all that costs money.
Oh, what's the acreage on this new school?
So that property is 89 acres. That is very, very large compared to what we sit on today with 2 of our schools. So plenty of room. You'll see in that concept design, it kind of pushes the building to the front. I anticipate that would probably be pushed back a little bit. It wouldn't be sitting up front. Yeah, it is in the township.
Should the back be the front and the front be the back?
No, it'd be right. We would do it right this time. And if we built a stadium, we would not be facing the west. Yes, so that you're going like this, watching the beginning of the game. So, but yeah, good question. Any other questions? If you have any questions next week, in a month, or you hear something that you want to, just please come up and ask me at Rotary, and or you're always welcome to call me or email me. I return all phone calls and all emails. So just reach out. Happy to answer any questions. I appreciate all the support in our schools. It's a great place to be, and I love how much our community rallies around our kids. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks so much, Paul. Our community is certainly lucky to have you. Okay, quick reminders here. No flags for hero ceremony, cancel for the weather. We're gonna do flag pickup at 5 p.m. on Monday, Be Hope Church. Coffee on Monday morning, 7 a.m. at Starbucks over on Fairfield. Next week's greeters are Beth and Dave Cusack. Next week's speaker is Mackenzie Whitmer, who is the executive director of the National Aviation Hall of Fame. Keep your eye out, Beavercreek Rotary and on Facebook. Is there anything else for the good of the club? Okay. One thing I have is, does anyone keep noticing that cardinal who is like really bent on getting inside here? So yeah, he's gonna get in here eventually. Paul, would you like to lead us through the pledge?
He wants to be a Rotarian.
Yeah. What?
United States of America. The republic where we see is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day and be safe.
It's being seen.
Cardinal, man. He's still laughing.